Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at it again with another Wuthering Waves 3.1 video. Except this time it's not going to be on Amos, it's not going to be on the story, it's not going to be on any of that stuff. It's going to be on Luuk. And the thing about Luuk is that we actually had the opportunity to test him out in the 3.1 story, like the first half of it. He had a big role. And the end result is that if you played around with a couple of buttons, played around with a couple of features, well, you had the chance to actually preview his entire kit in all of its glory and every single way that he's going to work. So let's just go ahead. Let's start diving right on into it and break down just what type of character he's going to be. All right, so when it comes to Luuk and his combat roles, he's going to have three main characteristics. The first is going to be main damage dealer. The second is going to be basic attack damage as his damage type. And the third is going to be the fact that he has a tune strain response. And so if you've been keeping up with Amith, you know how her kit works. Who wouldn't at this point after the story, right? You probably all pulled her right after that one. I already know you did. She's got two modes. She specializes in Tune Rupture. So Luuk is actually going to be one of our first and kind of like only Tune Strain DPSs we've had. And that means he's going to have quite a bit of powerful synergy, right? With people that can respond to Tune Strain. I also don't know if he can inflict it as well, right? There's a chance that Luuk is not able to inflict it himself, and that would mean you kind of want Lene on your team to be able to actually apply it. We'll see, though. We'll see as we explore later on. So, Luuk's weapon is going to be featured over here. We'll get to that at the very end of the video. So, let's start off with his normal attack. So when it comes to Luuk, his normal attack on the ground isn't actually going to be the main thing that you want to do. He's just going to have 4 consecutive basic attacks, but he does throw out a whirling blade on stage 3 that will just like stay there, and it will disappear whenever he casts any abilities that deal damage or he just leaves the field. You've probably seen it in some of the videos that he's been in. He'll just like throw the thing out and it'll kind of just keep rotating and dealing damage. That's why it has 30 ticks of 5% that you're seeing over here. His heavy attack is just going to make him consume stamina and attack. He'll also jump into the air, because this is the thing. Luuk is meant to attack in the air. He's meant to basically only really do basic attacks while he's in the air. And the idea is that he has 4 consecutive attacks, and the 4th one is a plunge. And he can press the normal attack or jump to perform basic attack stage 2 and 3 in the middle of the air. And whenever he attacks with this scythe thing that we'll talk about later, you'll see it later on in his Forte, he adjusts this ability even further. And so, like, as you can notice, right, from the stuff that he has going on, he's an aerial-based unit, and you've probably seen it from the combat that he's actually in when he's in the story. So, he also has built-in damage reduction 2, and he inflicts Tune Strain shifting on the target hit. The end result, guys, is that he probably doesn't actually need Lene in his teams later on in the 3.x versions. But for now, it probably will be best to slot him with Lene, not because she inflicts Tune Strain, because she can respond to it. And being able to respond to Tune Strain is really important because of how Tune Strain works. Tune Strain essentially is, and let me just go ahead and see it over here, responding to Tune Strain interfered. For each stack of Tune Strain interfered on the target, each point of, let's just put Luuk here, right? Luuk's Tune Break boost is going to increase his total damage against that target by a certain amount. Lene feels really good for Tune Strain because she has this in her kit built in. Let me just show you. Iridescent Splash is one of her abilities, right? And when she uses, or Visual Impact is like the advanced version of Iridescent Splash. Iridescent or Visual Impact basically applies a buff to the entire team whenever you use it. And the buff that it provides, right, is a Tune Break boost. Here it is. This skill consumes 3 points of true color and grants all nearby resonators in the team 40 points of Tune Break boost for 30 seconds. So you're noticing, right? Tune Strain scales with Tune Break boost. The only unit that seems to give Tune Break boost in the game, unfortunately, happens to be Lene. And so despite the fact that Lene buffs 50% all damage, she still doesn't actually buff basic attacks. She buffs Resonance Liberation by 25%. So it's kind of like the end result is, guys, you'll want Lene anyways, even though he's like a basic attack damage dealer. And Lene is probably going to be his best overall team, regardless of what happens. But in future versions, we might actually start seeing that change. You can see over here that Luuk is actually able to choose a different type of attack for stages 2 and 3 in his midair attack chain. That is when he decides to input a regular attack or he decides to input a jump. So that's kind of like the level of variation that he has in his kit. You can see that the abilities kind of like deal a similar amount of damage, but they'll likely have different animations or like different AoEs, and you'll be able to, you know, kind of like vary his combos, do different attack chains, and you know, just kind of like have more fun with the inputs that you can do. He seems like a very free-form character that has a lot going on. And based off the testing that I've done with him in the story, right, he's one of the most fun units I've seen in the game. His dodge counter is basically just, hey, you can press normal attack right after a dodge in midair to flash towards the target. Otherwise, you'll just do a regular dodge counter on the ground. So he has special air dodge counters where he like literally teleports next to his enemy, which is pretty badass what you think about it, right? Now we have his resonance skill. And this resonance skill over here is a little bit complicated simply due to the fact that it's used a lot in his rotations. So first off, his regular resonance skill is pretty just basic, right? He flashes towards a target and deals damage to them. He inflicts tune straight shifting. It has 2 charges and can be used in midair. It is one of the most basic abilities that I think I've seen in the game. It's like press E, deal damage, and then teleport to the enemy. But sometimes simple is like really good, and then it applies the tune straight shifting buff as well. Now, this is where stuff gets a little bit crazy. Casting Basic Attack Stage 4 or Midair Attack Stage 3 replaces Resonance skill with Aureole of Execution, which deals basic attack damage, inflicts tune straight shifting. So you can see that Luuk basically inflicts tune straight on pretty much every single goddamn attack in his kit, but you're also noticing over here, this is essentially his enhanced skill. And you're meant to do midair attacks 1, 2, and 3, get this enhanced skill, then use it, and then keep repeatedly casting it, right? Until you're using Ring, Breach, and then Glare. And then you're gonna notice this, right? Casting any form of this skill grants 1 stack of end notes on the end game and switches the Aureole of Execution, right? These ones over here, right to the next cast. So you're meant to like kind of go in like a 1, 2, 3, and you unlock the next stage after you do 3 basic attacks. So Luuk is basically just, think of the number 3. Luuk is all about the number 3. And if you just focus on the number 3 and attack with him in the air, you probably should be okay. I don't think it's going to be that hard to figure out how he works. So, switching to another resonator in the middle of his sequence is going to reset everything back to Golden Reflex. So, try not to make that happen. You can't really quick swap with him too much during that build-up. So, the first cast, Ring, is going to deal spectral damage and reset your midair attack cycle to stage 1. Hopefully, you're seeing what's going on over here. You attack, you jump, E, teleport to them, right? 1, 2, 3. Attack. Use the skill. You're back at midair stage 1. Now do 1, 2, 3. And then use this ability. You're going to spin and dash forward, deal spectral damage to enemies along the path, and reset the attack chain back to stage 1. Do you see what's going on over here? Every single time you use one of these abilities, you reset back to your first stage of your midair basic attack chain, and you just attack 3 times and then use the next ability. He is a lot simpler than he looks, but obviously, he can dodge a lot, he can reposition himself, he floats in the air, and he's one of the most mobile aerial characters we've ever had to play, and he's very, like, fluid during all of that. So, that's where I think a lot of the fun is going to come from, but in terms of actual execution, I mean, it doesn't seem that crazy. So yeah, the next normal attack is going to trigger basic attack, Golden Impale, and Golden Impale is just going to take you to the target. You can see that there's going to be things like these Ichor deposits as well. The first one is going to be when he throws out an Ichor blade. This just deals like a set amount of damage. It isn't too crazy. It's just pretty basic over here. Glare is going to be where he throws out like this solid state Ichor. Basically, it's going to create like this giant area on the ground. And that giant area on the ground is going to blow up after 5 seconds and deal basic attack damage in a big area. And end notes of the end game, right? Which is something that gets charged up over here every single time he uses one of his enhanced abilities. This makes his ultimate deal more damage, giving it a damage multiplier 25% per stack or 75% at max stacks. And so, obviously, build all of this stuff up, get all the end notes on the end game, and then go blow up the enemy after you've completed your combo. He's meant to basically have a rotation where he builds up to a massive nuke on his liberation. He casts it at the end, and then he switches out. And you can see over here, the motion values on some of his abilities are a little questionable, right? Especially that first one over here. It doesn't seem to be doing that much. But as you see, as you get to like Glare and then the Ichor deposits and all of that, it looks pretty decent. Now, though, we're missing something, aren't we? That's going to be the Forte circuit. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. Midair attack, Gavel of the Earth Shaker. When the solid state Ichor of the resonance skill, Aureole of Execution Glare is hurled out, right here, right? Put the Ichor down, right there. When the solid state Ichor is hurled out, press normal attack in midair to cast Gavel of the Earthshaker. Slam down from the air, detonate it. So again, it lasts for 5 seconds over here, and you're just going to detonate that. You might as well just add the extra damage that you see right here. So when that thing is ready to go, you're gonna you'll slam down and you recover all of your stamina. That's the really important part, because Luuk will continually drain stamina every single time he attacks in the air. And you see he has to attack in the air a fuck ton to be able to activate this. 9 times, if we're going to be honest. And so if you don't use this ability, you're not really gonna have stamina to do anything else with the rest of your teammates when he's done with his rotation. So yeah, make sure you perform this one. It shouldn't be too hard, though. Gavel of the Earthshaker is no longer available when his liberation is used or Luuk switches off the field. And do keep that in mind. You'll know when it's ready when his Forte circuit looks like this. You'll know. And you can see over here, midair, suspension, stamina cost, blah, 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 all of that stuff. You see what's going on, right? Orient Judge. With full Ichor Flow, enter the Orient Judge state. In this state, Luuk Herssen gains the following effects. Ichor Flow does not restore, and the damage multiplier of all forms of his resident skill, Oriole of Execution, increased by 110%. So you remember how I talked about the motion values over here? They don't look that good? He doubles them. Sorry, is it 110? Oh, he more than doubles all of these. So you're kind of seeing over here, you really, really, really want the full Ichor Flow to get all the damage that he has available. Casting Oriole of Execution Glare is also going to increase the damage multiplier of the next Gavel of the Earthshaker by 110%. Are you seeing what's going on? Luke's motion values look incredibly deceptive when you look at them in the stat menu, because he just buffs everything by 110%. And it's like just in this one part of his Forte circuit. And so you're probably imagining, right? Luuk probably gains 100 points of the Ichor Flow, whatever, right? When he intros in, and then when he uses the final parts of his kit, it ends. And when Ichor Flow depletes, this whole state that gives massive buffs to all his damage, it disappears. Golden Rule. When Luuk Herssen is in the team, all other Resonators in the team gain Golden Rule. So he's got like a status effect on everybody. When Resonators with Golden Rule use an outro skill and the incoming Resonator is Luuk Herssen, remove all Golden Rules on Resonators in the team and grant Luuk Herssen 200 points of Ichor Flow and 12 points of Concerto. Resonators in the team gain Golden... So you remember what I said? When he intros in, he'll just gain all of his Ichor. That's how he does it. It's just really fucking complicated for some goddamn reason. What the hell even is this? Huh? It could have just been in the intro skill. Gain 200 points of Ichor, 24-second cooldown. Whatever. So he needs a full Ichor Flow to be able to do that. I imagine that maybe 200 is the limit. Maybe 200 is the limit. Yeah, sure. I don't really know, man. We'll find out. Dawnlit Keep. Luuk Herssen gains 1 stack of Dawnlit Keep when he stays out of combat for over 4 seconds or uses his intro skill. Dawnlit Keep is capped at 1 stack. And when taking damage from enemies, consume 1 stack of Dawnlit Keep to reduce the damage taken by 60% and gain immunity to interruptions. So basically, this dude has, at some point in his rotation, a free hit. He's like the one character in the game that just gets a free hit. Any attack from any enemy, it hits him, and he will basically be, like, immune to it. So I guess that's cool, which is really good for him as an air unit, because you end up getting hit a lot while you're in the air. It is something that happens an insane amount. Now, Radiant, dude, this guy has the longest Forte I've ever... Radiant Reeve. When Luuk Herssen performs dodge in midair, he briefly stays airborne and hurls out the Ichor Blade. He stays consuming stamina whenever he's in the air, and when he's launched into the air, he can press dodge before landing to trigger his Scythe effect, where he kind of just like chills on his Scythe like that. He can only do it 3 times though. So as you see, Luuk might be the most uninterruptible unit in the game. And this is my take. Luuk will be one of the first characters that actually utilizes Mornier's interruption resistance and her massive damage reduction. Because there's not really a lot of units that need it that much, but Luuk looks like he'll kind of just want to like Oonga Boonga sometimes. If you have him and Mornier, you will be able to just like Oonga Boonga some stuff. And I think that will be like one of the face roll teams that you get in the game because of, well, I mean, it just seems like it's going to be really hard to stop him from doing what he wants to do. I'm just going to be real with you here. He has a lot of interruption resistance, all of that. It's kind of ridiculous. And now the Ichor Blade. It deals a fixed amount of spectral damage. Only one can exist, and it cannot parry. I don't know why it's in here. It doesn't fucking do anything. I don't even know why it's in his kit. It deals 10 damage. That's 10 fucking anyways. Luuk Herssen holds up to 300 points of Ichor Flow. So remember over here, right? Golden Rule gives him 200, but you need 100. So what's going to end up occurring, guys? Normal attacks, Resident Skill, Golden Reflex, Resident Skill, Oriole of Execution, and Basic Attack, Golden Impale, and Midair Attack, Gavel of Earthshaker, Restore Ichor Flow on hit, and Casting Intro Skill is going to give you 100. So remember what I said over here? Intro Skill is going to give 100, and then you get 200 from the Golden Rule. So he just intros in, and it's full. Dude, I'm just going to be real with you here. Why'd you just use so many fucking words? And just like, bro, it's like, yes, when he intros in, he'll have all of his resources. Congratulations. Very, very, very simple. I don't think it's that confusing at all. All right, Residence Liberation, rewritten in Winter's margins. Deal Spectro damage. That's it. This guy's Liberation is the funniest shit ever because it is the shortest one I've ever seen. He just deals basic attack Spectro damage, and it's a lot because he gains a 75% damage multiplier on this, guys. And this is why I'll also tell you this is going to nuke and probably deal similar damage to Amos Ultimate because this set is in the game, boys. Are you ready for this? I'm about to show you this shit over here. This set has, like, for some godforsaken reason, was released in 3.0. And this set, what it does is when you deal basic attack damage, you gain a stack, right? And with 3 stacks, using your Liberation makes your Liberation cast gain 40% basic attack damage bonus. So with Rite of Gilded Revelation, which is Luke's set, you'll gain a 40% basic attack damage bonus on this. It deals basic attack damage, so it'll work. And then on top of all that, it's going to gain a 75% damage multiplier because you have your 3 stacks. So yeah, it's kind of a strong ability. I'm expecting it to nuke and do absolutely ridiculous things. Looks fun. Now we got our intro skill. Deal Spectral damage and hurl out an Ichor Blade and inflict Toon Strain shifting. You can press the normal attack after this to cast mid-air attack stage 2 Scythe Dissection or jump to use Resection. So you can see over here, right? It's like telling you, hey, he's got the 2 different Scythe attacks. Have some fun. And now, Bow of the Last Light. That's going to be his outro skill. I love how simple so much of his kit is. His ultimate is deal damage. His outro skill is deal damage. Awesome. Toon Break. Luuk Herssen can inflict Toon Strain shifting, and he can respond to Toon Strain interfered. And you can see over here, this is how the Toon buff is going to work. His Toon Break boost is going to buff his damage against targets with this. So you want the characters that buff the Toon Strain. It's very, very, very simple. Having him with Mornier and Linné is going to be very good because you'll have full access of all this buffs. And as you can see, having a character that can respond to Toon Strained, right, means that it increases the stack limit of Toon Strained by 1 as well. So having 3 of these characters on here, right, means that it's 0.36 per Toon Break boost instead of just 0.12. And that's going to be a pretty big damage buff for him. It's going to make him deal a lot if you have the right teammates for him. Now we got our inherent skill over here, and this one's going to be very interesting. Pulses Under the Snow. When Residents in the team directly damage and defeat targets, if the target was affected by Toon Strained, and Luuk Herssen has no Perpetuating Daytime, he gains stacks of Perpetuating Daytime equal to the stacks of Toon Strained interfered. Up to 3, 1 if you have nobody else, right? If Luuk Herssen already has Perpetuating Daytime and the target stacks of Toon Strained exceed the current stacks of Perpetuating Daytime, increase Perpetuating Daytime stacks to match the target's Toon Strained interfered stacks. Basically, this guy gets a bit of a reward. He gets a bit of a reward whenever he defeats a target. When Residents in the team cast Toon Break, if the target is affected by Toon Strain shifting, Luuk Herssen loses all stacks of Perpetuating Daytime, then applies equal stacks of Toon Strain interfered on the target, up to the target's current Toon Strain interfered stack cap. So this is basically what's happening over here. Luuk Herssen is able to like transfer Toon Strain interfered stacks over to his enemies. And I think the point of it is to like make sure that you don't need to like, well, constantly reapply Toon Strained to a target. Because look at how Toon Strained sort of works. You can respond to it, right? Oh, now that I think about it, there's only 2 sources of Toon Strained in the game. I've always been thinking that responding to it adds a stack, but it doesn't. Responding to Toon Strain doesn't actually add a stack, now that I've realized it. You can only inflict stacks of Toon Strain when you're using an ability that can do it. And so, for example, Linné is one of those characters where a bunch of attacks in her kit, these ones over here, she's got 3, right? Or 2. These will inflict Toon Strain. And so, I'm looking over here. When responding to Toon Strain interfered, for each stack on the target, will have a max stack limit of 3, but only 2 appliers. Because Luuk applies and Linné applies. So, what this buff does, perpetuating daytime, right, is it allows you to get up to 3 stacks. But you have to kill one of the targets first and get the perpetuating daytime buff. That's what I think is something that, like, makes sense. Yeah, if the target is affected by 2 straight shifting, he loses all stacks that applies equal stacks up to the target's current 2 straight interfered stack cap. This is the thing, guys. With Linné and Mornier and Luuk, your max stack cap will be 3, but you'll only be able to apply 2. One with Linné and then one with Luuk. So this inherent over here lets you get up to 3. I know it sounds complicated, right? But like it kind of is because of how Toon Strain works. It's a little like needlessly complex, but hopefully this explanation has made sense. Now we got inherent cause, uncaused, or inherent skill, uncaused diagnosis. When Luuk Herssen's skills directly damage a target that have Toon Strain interfered on them, every 10 points of Toon Break boost amplifies this instance of damage up to 30%. And when any nearby resonator in the team inflicts Toon Strain shifting or deals Toon Break damage, he gains a 25% attack buff. This might be the best inherent skill in the game. This might be the best actual inherent... This is a crazy amount of buffing. It's just like... Guys, let me say it to you this way. Every character in the game is going to have a baseline level of Toon Break boost, right? It's 10. The Lahai Roy characters have a 10 base. And so he's going to have 50% or 5% amp just at a baseline for existing. And with Linné, I think it goes up to 30%, maybe it goes up to 25. But likely, Luuk is going to get a basic attack damage and Toon Break boost buffer later on that will buff those stats and then be a lot better than Linné. So, yeah, that's what you got over here. We also got a sequence notes. This is going to be a little bit nuts. I think these might actually be changed, so we'll just talk about them really quickly. We'll figure it out. Gold Kindled in Ash. He gets a 150% mid-air attack damage bonus. That seems like a lot. That almost seems like too much. Just, hey, what? Maybe that's less than it's supposed to. That seems really good for a sequence node. Like the first one. Whatever it is, he's also going to gain a stack on the limit of Dawnlit Keep. And when he's in the Orient Judge state, using his resident skill, Oriole of Execution, is going to grant 1 stack of the Dawnlit Keep. So you got to pay really close attention to what the Dawnlit Keep even like is. This is the one, right, that gives him all of the interruption resistance and the damage immunity. So it's a blend of like damage bonuses, but it's also a blend of like quality of life as well, because it's going to be really hard for you. You might be able to just go healerless. With his S1, it might be recommended you go like healerless with him, because I don't see how you would need a healer if you're constantly keeping this stack, this thing over here that prevents you from taking damage. So I think it opens up those kind of team comps for him. Now we got Avalanche, Roaring, and Eyes. The damage multiplier of Resonance Liberation rewritten in Winter's margins is increased by 60%. Remember, that's the one that deals a massive amount of nuke damage, and it also stackable with the end notes of the endgame one. His inherent skill, Uncaused Diagnosis, is also enhanced. Now, it's 10 points of Toon Break boost, give you 10%. This S2 makes it so that if you have a Toon Break booster on his team, you will like shit up because he'll gain 60% natural amp. I think his ultimate might hit for like a couple million if you roll with this. So yeah. S3, Spine Tempered by Golden Rain. The damage multipliers of all forms of his resonant skill, Oriole of Execution, are increased by 136% when he's in the state. That state gives a baseline of 110. So, like, that's 136%. I don't know how much it stacks on top of that. It's nuts. In the Orient Judge state, casting Glare increases the damage multipliers of Gavel of Earthshaker and Ichor Deposit by 136. So basically, it's like, we had the 110. It was 110 on all these abilities when you had Orient Judge. Now it's just 110 plus 136. His S3 is also really strong. His inherent skill is also going to be enhanced. Perpetuate Daytime now stacks up to 4 times. I think this is meant for when you have, I think Luuk is going to get a replacement for Mornier. This is what this is telling me. Luuk is going to get a replacement for Mornier that heals and I guess also applies Toon Strain shifting. Because I don't know how else you're going to get to fucking 4 stacks then. Maybe you can like, maybe you can get 4 with Mornier and Linné already. I mean, probably. I don't think they would release a sequence node that requires a future character to activate. So you probably can do it in when it gets released. All right. Pulse, Thrumming, Under, Rhyme. After a Resonator in the team deals Toon Break damage, all Resonators in the team deal 20% more damage for 20 seconds. Just very easy. Through the stillness of Snowstorm. Intro skill. Before injection of Dawn and outro skill, Bow to the Last Light gains an 80% damage bonus. Honestly, pretty good for an S5 on a DPS. Luke's S6 probably will be the strongest one in the game. And the reason for why I say that is this guy has no bad sequence nodes. This guy has no bad sequence nodes. Every single one is a massive damage boost. Or like, this one isn't that massive, but it's still useful. So the perspective that I have on this one is his sequence nodes look insane. Because usually people have like a dog shit one at 4 and a dog shit one at 5. All of his look pretty good. Now we're going to have his S6. When nearby resident of the team deal Tomb Break damage, all forms of his Oriole of Execution abilities, his Secret Deposit, and the Gavel, they're going to deal 30% more damage to the target. And each stack of end notes on the end game grants a 40% damage bonus to his Liberation, up to 120. And when Luuk Herssen deals damage to targets inflicted with Toon Straight Interfere, the stack count on the targets is increased by 2. This effect ignores the max stack limit. I'm going to be real. He might have the best S6 in the game. Those are going to be your sequence notes. Now let's go ahead and review what we said we were going to review at the start, and that is going to be his weapon. Daybreaker Spine. Suturing Daylight. He is a doctor after all. Increases attack by 12%, and after dealing basic attack damage, the wielder gains 20% Spectro for 4 seconds. That's kind of dog shit. I'm gonna be so for real with you. Each time after the wielder inflicts Toon Straight Shifting on the target, they gain 20% basic attack damage but amplification, and their basic attack damage ignores 10% of the target's defense for 6 seconds. Luke applies Toon Straight on every attack. So he's basically going to have permanent uptime on 10% defense ignore, 20% basic attack damage amp, and 20% spectral damage bonus. He has like kind of like a... I feel like his weapon is really good, but this is the unfortunate or fortunate part for you. We just talked about how Luke does Toon Straight Shifting on every attack, right? Well, guess what? You could just... Increases attack by 12%, dealing damage to targets under Toon Straight Interfered, which Luke does constantly apply. Grants 6% basic attack damage for 3 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. So 24%. This gives 12% attack, 24% basic attack damage. Pretty decent. This one gives you 12% attack, 20% spectro, and 20% basic attack damage amp, and 10% basic attack defense ignore. If you want your Luke to be really good, then get this. If you want your Luke to be okay, then just get this. But my question is, why even pull Luke if you're not going to get his signature? I'm just wondering, like, what are you pulling him for at that point? Because he's also one of the more unnecessary characters in the game because we have Spectro DPSs already, and it's very likely you have Phoebe or Zani. Because most people have Phoebe and Zani, right? Or I would assume, right? Or like Phoebe at the very least, who can DPS, right? I kind of view him as one of the most unnecessary characters in the game. So my take is, most people that are going to pull him are going to pull his weapon. Because I just think it would be weird for somebody to pull him and I guess not pull his weapon because I just think you just wouldn't pull him in that case. That's my take. But yeah, as you can see, it's good. The standard one is also very good too, except this one's just better than the standard one. And if you really want it, go for it. And I think it's going to be extremely strong on him because, well, amplification in a weapon is very rare and you kind of really, really, really want it. It's good to have. But yeah, that's going to be the kit overview from the previews that we've had in the game. Hopefully, all the talk that we had regarding him, his design, how he works, how his mechanics are going to differ compared to some other units was helpful. So yeah, let me know what you all thought. Peace out.